Okay, welcome back to another DVD and Blu-ray update, this time for June, but it's going to cover titles that I've watched and picked up throughout the previous couple of months. So, starting off with the Blu-rays, the first one is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. This is one I picked up because I hadn't actually seen this movie, but in preparation for Dominion coming out, I thought it'd be probably wise to watch this before watching that one at the cinema. And to be honest, I wasn't really impressed with this one. Jurassic World I thought was okay. This one was kind of disappointing. I did think the whole thing with the island and the dinosaurs and the volcanic eruption was a little bit far-fetched. That no humans were killed during a volcanic eruption of an entire island. Also, how they managed to get one of every species off the island without sedating them, thought was a little bit far-fetched, but then again, it is a Jurassic Park movie, so you can't really expect too much. The Indoraptor, I actually thought was alright. I know a lot of people thought that was a bit stupid of a design, but yeah, and then the one evil ranger guy who got his arm fully torn off by the Indoraptor in the cage with no blood whatsoever. I mean, I know it's a kid's film, but that to me just seemed a little bit stupid. You would have blood spurting out of everywhere. If you're going to do something like that, either don't do it or make it a 15. Just my personal opinion. Next, we have Play Dirty with Michael Caine. This is a 101 Films War Collection release about Michael Caine, who needs to get a group of misfits slash ex-personnel slash criminals, I believe, to destroy a German, I believe it is a German fuel reserve, I believe. But yeah, loved this film. Some really good performances in this. Michael Caine and Harry Andrews do brilliant jobs portraying the characters in this. Reminded me a lot of the LRDG group in World War II. I've read a lot about those, and yeah, you can definitely tell that they based a lot of what's going on here on the LRDG groups and the SAS Desert operations during World War II. You could tell that's definitely the source material for this film, and yeah, such a really good film. And with all of the jeeps and everything, just if you've read anything about the long-range desert groups of World War II, you'd actually appreciate a lot of what this film has to offer. Next is a second sight release in the very sexy black case of Extra. This is a very weird, quirky film, definitely for the acquired taste, but if I'd advise anyone to watch this film without being thoroughly entertained, because it is a very entertaining film. Basically about this guy that gets abducted by an extraterrestrial being, and he leaves his family behind. They think he's just ran away, and then he later becomes reborn. This woman gives birth to him as a man, so she gives birth to a fully grown man. Very weird scene. And yeah, he's just an alien and has other intentions. Eats his son's pet snake, I believe it's a snake. And also a very, very controversial ending as well. I was watching a lot of the special effects, special features in this, and what the guy had to do to get into the rubber latex costume of the alien, standing in that awkward way in that swamp was just ridiculous. Definitely had a commitment to the role that very few would have for what he got paid. But yeah, I know there's a few sequels to this that are pretty much pointless and not worth checking out. But yeah, Extra, definitely a great watch. Onto the DVDs now. We have The Deep, which I was pleasantly surprised by, about this couple that go on holiday to Bermuda to do some diving, and they discover an old World War II shipwreck, which they discover some treasure on there, and they get involved in all of this criminal activity because the criminals want the treasure that they've discovered. Brilliant performance by Robert Shaw, I must say, in this. And yeah, just in general, just a really great film. Definitely took me by surprise. Next is Kokoda, the 39th Battalion, a great movie about the Australian Army during World War II. Main reason I picked this up is because there's not enough movies that cover the Australian Army personnel during World War II, and it's definitely a very interesting aspect of the war, in my opinion, that I really wanted to see more of on film. But yeah, a lot of great jungle scenes in this about the a battalion of Australian soldiers combating the Japanese in the jungles. But yeah, definitely a great one. Next is Cannibal Man, which I believe was a Video Nasty Blue Underground release. Very misleading title because the main character isn't a cannibal man at all. In fact, there's no cannibalism in the entire film. No advertent cannibalism anyway. It's about a guy that kills people, and he works at like a meat factory, a canned soup factory, to which he puts the dismembered bodies of his victims inside the meat grinder, which then goes into the soup. So, I mean, technically he's a cannibal man because he's making the population that eats the soup cannibals without them really knowing that they're cannibals. But yeah, definitely an interesting film. Definitely loved the ending, and it does have a scene where an actual cow is being slaughtered, the very opening scene, so definitely one of those shocking movies if you're not used to that kind of stuff. And the next one is Train to Busan. This one often gets compared to 28 Days Later, but I don't think it's as good as 28 Days Later at all. It's a Korean zombie film from 2016, I believe. About, zombie outbreak on a train, basically. About a dad trying to keep his little girl safe. Very intense ending, a lot of screaming. Very different film. I see what they tried to do with it. Just not as good as 28 Days Later, in my opinion. I don't really know why they get compared, but there you go. Next is a film I've thoroughly enjoyed. It's Raw. Such a great movie. Very different to your average sort of cannibal film about this veterinary student that is a vegetarian, gets forced to eat rabbit's liver, I think it is, or a rabbit's heart raw. And yeah, it kind of stems from there, really. She develops a taste for human flesh. Great music in this, and honestly love how this was filmed. It was one of those sort of like artsy sort of films, but definitely didn't let that put me off, and I very much enjoyed the movie. Great French movie. Next is a edition of a movie I very much enjoy, and that is Army of Darkness, in this sort of bootleg edition that's been made out to as though it's a legit bootleg. But yeah, I don't think there's anything much different. It's an Anchor Bay release. Very cool design. But yeah, I don't know if this is the Hail the King Bailey ending, but yeah, that one I've always wanted to check out. Next one is The Entity, about a woman that gets haunted by a spirit who is sexually assaulting her. It's supposed to be based on a true story. I'm not really too sure how true that is, but you know, a lot of people are full of shit these days. You don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't. So, but yeah, a pretty enjoyable film. More of a drama than a horror, really. Next is a very rare film that I found in CEX, and it's Summer Rental. This one you pretty much just can't find it anywhere, and when it does pop up, it's never for a good price. So I found it in CEX for a reasonable price, and I had to pick it up. Haven't watched it yet, but it's quite short. It's 83 minutes. One of John Candy's earlier films. And another one is a film I have checked out, and it is The Great Outdoors. Never owned it, so needed to pick it up. But yeah, great about these two families that go on vacation together in the wilderness, and yeah, a lot of great funny scenes in that one. And we've had a lot of great films here, but this is one I picked up on a whim, and it is just honestly dog shit. Agnes, honestly, such a shitty movie. I don't know why there's so many nun films coming out lately, but this definitely takes the cake as one of the worst. Makes absolutely fuck all sense about this nun that gets possessed, and this sort of TV exorcist comes in to do the exorcism. And the latter half of the movie is about a friend of the possessed nun leaving the convent in this sort of like supermarket job. Absolute dog shit of a film. And on a final note, I went to a convention and met my favourite actor of all time, Malcolm Mcdowell, and I managed to get him to sign 2 DVDs. So I got him to sign If and A Clockwork Orange. Very genuine guy. Had a great conversation with him about the set of Caligula, and I think it was Sir John Galder on that, who admitted that he loved the set because it had a lot of cock on the set. So yeah, some very questionable things there from Sir John Galder, but yeah, very happy to meet my favourite actor of all time. Seems like a great guy, and he is getting on a bit, so I wanted to meet him before he popped his clogs. So yeah, that is my June 2022 update.